Garu, roll call.
Markey,
Here.
Trustee Williams,
I'm present.
Trustee Spark,
Here.
Trustee Shaw,
Here.
Trustee Valdez.
Here.
9, are there any comment cards received related to the closed session?
There are none.
I
Okay.
make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Make a motion for the minutes from
Second.
August 17th.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Okay. Now we're going to go into closed session to conduct an appeal hearing, followed by closed session items. Thank you. Okay, I would like to now call our good friend Rabbi Levi to the podium for invocation.
Thank you. It's a delight to be back here with you all. Rabbi Peter Levy, rabbi in the local community. And I want to actually share an old Jewish joke with you all. And it goes, there's no one in the Bible that you want your kids to grow up to be like, right? They all had issues, right? Adam was blaming Eve, Cain killed Abel, Abraham, well, between his handmaids and trying to sacrifice his son, the sibling rivalry with Jacob and Esau, or Joseph and the brothers, they all got their problems and their challenges. But yet, for the Jewish people, we hold on to these stories and these narratives. We tell it as part of our history because we're better off for it. Right? The good, the bad, and the ugly is all part of our narrative. And when we learn how to embrace that, right, it's part of the secret for the Jewish people and our thriving for this millennium. And of course, public education is a part of America's story and how we became great as a nation that we recognize today. In fact, without our public schoolhouses, we wouldn't have the high literacy rates we do. We probably wouldn't have been able to usher in the industrial and scientific ages and might that our country bears. And public education in the U.S., has consistently welcomed newcomers from all over the world, which has knit our democracy back together, after its challenges, particularly the Civil War, enabled us to become the wealthy nation with the high living standards that we have today. That's what public education is about in our country. And to renew the benefits of public education that have brought to America, we need to commit ourselves to this vision, to telling our whole story. Right? Our democracy sprouts from the seeds planted in public education, where students grapple with our messy history and learn to negotiate the differences of race, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability. Education thrives with the separation of church and state. The flower of the freedom of thought will wilt when religious doctrine is foisted upon our students. Education flourishes with the free flow of ideas. In the past 2 years, we've seen 36 states in this country propose 137 bills that would limit teaching about race, gender, and American history. And in our increasingly diverse Orange County, insulating students from the lessons about racism or the lesbian, gay, bi, and trans and queer community and the bigotry they suffer would create a generation ill-equipped to participate in our multicultural and diverse democracy. When the teaching of our country's full history is inhibited, our children are purposely made ignorant on how American society works. Lies and omissions about history were essential to the program of Jim Crow subjugation and history of racial oppression and the denial of political rights. Now, as a rabbi, I know that freedom came into this world in Hebrew, in the Hebrew scriptures and the story of Moses liberating the ancient Israelites from slavery and oppression in Egypt. The story of the Exodus from Egypt has been the most inspiring, transformative story this world has ever seen. It's toppled tyrants, and it's led the way for the freedom of this world. And every student deserves the kind of myth-shattering and empowering education by telling and owning the true stories of our country and the wonderful and rich diversity of people who inhabit it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Peter, President of the Orange County of Rabbis. Truly appreciate. Now it is time for our Pledge of Allegiance. Perhaps we have a volunteer. Lori Kaler, would you like to lead our Pledge of Allegiance?
Was that an invocation? That was not an
I know.
Please join me. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lori, and welcome everyone. Nina, are there any introductions?
There are no new introductions, but I would like to introduce our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Christine Olmsted. She is no longer the interim,
Oh, okay.
but she is now the Chief Academic Officer. So
Congratulations.
Wow, look at her.
Congratulations. Okay, are there any comment cards?
Yes.
Yes.
So, two, I think that's Lori, followed by Andre. So, we want to come on down, and if you want to just be on the on-deck circle, you can come on down to the front
Come on
row and be
down.
ready to roll.
The price is right.
All right.
Right here, yeah, right here in front of the microphone. And they're going to set the timer for 3 minutes.
I just wanted to pass something out.
just if you lower the mic and you can bring anything that you have to hand out to me and we'll distribute it.
I don't know if I printed out enough.
Okay, we'll get copies for everyone. Thank you. And before you start, if you just state your name and then start your comments.
Yeah. My name's Lori Morris, and I'm a parent at OPA SOC. Good evening, board members and staff. I'm here because I have a child at Oxford Prep. I'm here to shed light on my experience and encourage parents to keep their eyes open. My concern started last year when I was informed that OPA was implementing the Second Step Social Emotional Program into their curriculum. At the time, I was somewhat familiar with the term as I had watched a video on SEL via the Capistrano Unified School District, which promoted supporting a child's social and emotional well-being. After digging a bit deeper, I did find some negative press about the program. I read an article by Anne-Marie Banfield titled Resignation about a teacher who spoke out and said that Second Step's SEL program attempts to undermine the parent-child relationship by subtly suggesting that people from other generations, i.e. parents and grandparents, could be a roadblock to their child's goals. I did not see that for myself, but when I read the account, it was certainly troubling. Fast forward to the beginning of this year. Within the first week, my child informed me that her teacher had posters hanging in the classroom that highlighted the words Marxist, critical race, gender, and feminist, and many others. I asked my child about the posters, and she replied that the poster topics could be used for extra credit writing assignments. On September 1st, I attended a classroom orientation where I saw the signs for myself. After seeing the posters, I was definitely concerned. I reached out to a friend who encouraged me to watch the August 17th Orange County Board of Education meeting. I was shocked to see a whistleblower from OPA come forward and expose a vendor that OPA had approved. This particular vendor, as it was explained, promotes CRT, social justice, and also uses software to collect data from invasive online surveys. After the whistleblower exposed the vendor, the board came back and expressed their deep concern over this issue and stated the vendor had no place in the K through 12 classroom environment. I was encouraged that OPA took note and, from my understanding, dissolved that contract immediately. What I find concerning, despite the warning from the board, is my child's teacher had these controversial signs in the classroom well after the start of school. In fact, not until I reached out via email on September 6th did the signs come down. I did not demand the signs come down. I just wanted to know how these topics fit into the curriculum. The principal was quick to respond to my concern and even gave an example of how the signage was intended for use. She explained, for instance, that gender on the main character could be changed to allow for a different outcome in the storyline. No example was given regarding Marxist, critical race, or feminist, and to be fair, I'm not sure those terms were part of the extra credit writing because I did not hear directly from the teacher other than to tell me that the signs were down. In closing, I want to say I love OPA. I'm grateful for its existence and I support the charter. I just want to make sure that all the teachers and the administration are communicating about what is appropriate in the classroom. I want to have faith and confidence in OPA to do the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andre?
Hello, my name is Andrei Yagodin. I'll be talking about OPA as well. First of all, I would like to thank OCBE for advising OPA Charter School to cancel the contract with the Restorative Equity Partnership. And I'm thankful to OPA leadership team for following your advice and doing the right thing. I think it is important to review OPA's decision-making process that led to signing this contract in the first place to make sure the situation will not repeat in the future. I noticed one anomaly when OPA board was choosing insurance company. Quotes from multiple providers were presented to the board. Insurance companies are not political, but training providers may have strong political biases. When OPA board was choosing training provider, then no alternative quotes were presented to the board. It was strange that only one person, Patricia Lukaroth, decided with whom to sign the contract. Ms. Lukaroth provided misleading arguments and used her influence to push this contract through the approval process, despite warnings voiced by me and some board members. Her political views seem to overlap with RIP's views because she uses pronouns. Believing in gender fluidity became a political thing, so I guess we are witnessing some favoritism here. Ms. Lukaroth never replied to my email asking what criteria she used in choosing RIP over competitors. She is responsible for student services and accountability at OPA. I checked the definition of accountability on Wikipedia, and I learned that ignoring questions is not part of it. So I asked my questions again at the last OPA board meeting, and I had to retrieve Ms. Lukaroth's emails through FOIA request. I found that in one email sent to RIP, she complains that their website's radical wording is causing too many questions, and she had to answer all these questions. Here I have to emphasize that Ms. Lukaroth's job was to advise OPA board how to choose the best vendor, but not to advise her favorite vendor how to secure the contract by hiding the truth. This raises the question whether she is loyal to OPA or RIP. And by the way, if Ms. Lukaroth decides to apply for a job at RIP, then I promise that OPA parents will write excellent reference letter for her. We saw how hard she was trying to push this contract through, and we have her emails to back it up. I would like to advise OPA to harden their decision-making process during new vendor onboarding, because I can definitely see flaws there.
Andre, your time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to submit this to the board.
Thank you. Okay, that's how many cards?
That's it.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. At this point, then, we will move on to the organizational meeting part. Number 2, election of officer. So I'm going to preside over the election of the clerk of the board. Do I have any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate our new trustee, George Aldis.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I guess we'll go for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
I think you passed 5-0.
Okay.
Including yourself. Thank you for serving as clerk of the board. And now we will, we're on item number 3. We will nominate and approve board member assignments for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. And what assignments do we have left to do?
They're under item 3. So
We have
it
two.
would just be Orange County School Boards Association and the PTA liaison.
Okay, so we'll start with the OCSBA. Do I have any nominations for that role?
Since we're on a roll, I'd like to nominate our new trustee, George Aldis, for that position too.
For which
I'll
one?
second that.
For the
Sounds like I'm getting a lot of extra work.
Do I have a second? Yeah, I do.
You can refuse it, George.
You can refuse.
It's a good starter to get
Yeah.
to know everybody.
Okay, should we take it for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's 4.5, no, 5-0. Thank you.
And only to
George.
be favor and to be equal, I'll nominate myself for the PTA
For the PTA
To make this
liaison?
easy. You
Okay.
Know, yeah.
That's very generous of you.
nomination of yourself.
Okay, wonderful. All in favor then?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Excellent.
Dr. Williams, our PTA liaison, thank you for doing that. All right, that moves us on to our time certain, and I'm going to call Chief Academic Officer Christine Olmsted to the podium.
I don't see our guests, so I'm thinking they weren't able to make it tonight. So I'll just read our resolution and we'll go from there. So good evening, President Sparks, trustees, and guests. Red Ribbon Week officially began in 1988 to honor DEA agent Enrique Kiki Caminera. Kiki was a highly decorated DEA agent who dedicated 11 years of his life to combating drug abuse before his passing in 1985 at the hands of a drug cartel. His passion for this work stemmed from his love for his wife, 3 children, and his community. The Red Ribbon Week movement was started in 1985 by students and teachers at Calexico High School in Kiki's hometown. When they heard about his death, the students and staff wore red ribbons and pledged to lead drug-free lives to honor the sacrifices made by Kiki and others on behalf of all Americans. Calexico High School students and staff also had a goal of spreading awareness of drug abuse across the country. In 1988, the Grassroots Campaign was officially recognized as Red Ribbon Week by the National Family Partnership, with President Reagan and Nancy Reagan serving as first honorary chairpersons. Since 1988, Drug Use is Life Abuse, a support group of the Orange County Sheriff's Advisory Council, which OCDE participates on, and the Orange County Sheriff's Department have promoted Red Ribbon Week as a kickoff to drug use awareness and prevention education activities in Orange County schools. As part of their campaign, the Drug Use is Life Abuse Council distributes Red Ribbon Week wristbands. Oh, can you guys say that really fast?
That's a
10,
tongue
5
twister.
times, right? To all public, charter, and private school students and staff, encouraging them to be drug-free and to show their support for drug prevention efforts. To support Red Ribbon Week, the Drug Use is Life Abuse Council has developed a partnership with local businesses that offer incentives for customers who are wearing Red Ribbon Week wristbands. This year, Red Ribbon Week is October 23rd to October 31st, but it doesn't stop there. Throughout the year, numerous county, city, and community-based organizations provide drug abuse prevention and education services to thousands of youth and families across Orange County. The Orange County Department of Education and Orange County Board of Education are honored to continue our partnership with the Drug Use is Life Abuse Council to promote Red Ribbon Week through drug prevention and awareness messages throughout Orange County, honoring the memory of Kiki Caminera. We appreciate the board's annual support of Red Ribbon Week here in Orange County, and a resolution is officially in your packets tonight to recognize Red Ribbon Week as October 23rd to the 31st in 2022. At this time, we'd like to honor our partnership with our partners at the Sheriff's Department and Drug Use is Life Abuse, and thank you for your continued support of this program.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing the history. Very interesting.
If I might, real quick,
Yeah.
Madam President. I was going to mention, I heard once Agent Camarena's son, he's now a judge, and he goes around speaking. It's quite moving, his presentation. But I was going to ask, years ago, when I was working for State Senator Bob Huff, the State Senate had a program of printing up bookmarks, that Red Ribbon Week bookmarks, and I would drive around. I put like my whole back seat of my car, and I just drove from schools that the senator represented and dropped off boxes to give to the students. I don't know, do we still do that? I bet
There are all sorts of
little fun
paraphernalia
giveaways.
you can get for part of Red Ribbon Week. So our office sends things out to the schools through prizes we get, and then there's our Red Ribbon Week website that you can go on and order more things if you want that. But we do make sure all the wristbands get out to all of the schools, and then through various programs that we have, different items are provided to students if they're part of our student programs.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Good,
Yeah.
question. That is Officer Riki.
Enrique.
Enrique
And he goes by Kiki
Kiki.
Camarena, Camarena.
Okay. And he was slain in 1985
85.
by
Yeah.
a drug cartel.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
He was a DEA agent undercover, and they realized he was working for the U.S. government, and the cartels got him.
The reason why I asked that question, that's new to me. I didn't
Oh.
know that.
Okay.
You know, we have a resolution before us, and what I was, in looking at it, I'd like to make mention of DEA Agent Officer Enrique Camarino in it, and add language in memory of his service to this great country. So I just bring that before the board when the actual item comes
We could make
before
that
us.
friendly amendment.
We can make that amendment, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, our next thing to do, I think, is to adopt the resolution number 1322 in support of October 23 to October 29, 2022 as Orange County's Red
There you
Ribbon
go.
Week campaign, and encourage all community members to promote alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention education programs and activities, and send copies of the resolution to school districts in Orange County. So do we have a motion?
George, would you like to make a motion, or somebody on the
I'll
board?
make a motion
Okay.
to accept this with a friendly amendment to somehow add Enrique Camarino's name in memory of or somewhere in there.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So if I, discussion if I can. So the language should be more specific in that, therefore be it resolved that the OCBE acknowledges DEA Agent Officer Enrique Camarino's service to this country and for this Red Ribbon Week origins.
Okay.
Something like
Just
that.
a little history, piece of acknowledgement.
Yeah,
Sure.
a piece of
At the end.
Actually, Drew would make the corrections to your resolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Oh, okay.
so she's- And then we can either bring it back for signature or send it to you to sign with the,
Oh, okay.
with the amended language.
Sure.
If you all want to proof it before, we've got some time, we could bring it back at the September 20th forum so that the full board could see the document.
Sure.
If you want to all see it. It's up to you how you want to work that.
I'm fine if you just adopt the language that we just used. I don't know how my other board members
I'm
feel.
fine with that
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
I
Just
don't
make it
need to see
easier
it.
for Daru.
Okay, and then we'll just get your signature, Lisa.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll recess the regular board meeting to a meeting of the Orange County Department of Education Facilities Corporation. Right?
Correct.
We
But I
didn't
need to close
capture
the
a
other one?
vote. You all had discussion.
Oh, we didn't vote?
That's right, we didn't vote.
We didn't vote, we just discussed. Okay, all in favor
Aye.
of adopting the
Aye.
resolution? Aye. Okay, passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll recess the regular board meeting to a meeting of the Orange County Department of Education Facilities Corporation.
You have to read. You have to read.
Trustee,
For the better for the record. Did you read that?
You have another red line for the other agenda.
I don't see it.
it's a separate piece of paper, it should be. Oh, separate, yeah, there you go. Should
This
be
one?
there.
Oh, I see, okay. Okay, so now I'll call to order, for the benefit of the record, the regular meeting of the Facilities Corporation is called to order. Daru, roll call.
Trustee Barkey?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Present.
Trustee Sparks?
Here.
Trustee Shaw?
Here.
Trustee Dowdy?
Here.
Now,
Make the motion to
yeah.
adopt the agenda?
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-0, we're adopting the agenda. And do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 17, 2022?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-0. Nina, do we have any speaker cards received?
You have no public comments on this item.
Okay. So I will adjourn this meeting and go back to the regular board meeting. There we go.
And just for point of reference, since you do have a new board member, I could
Yeah.
take a moment just to explain what you all just did for him.
Oh,
Sure.
This item comes up once a year. So last month, they had the facility corporation. The board determined some years ago that they wanted to adopt the minutes the following month because we used to do it the next year. And then by the time it came up again, a year later, most items were too far from memory for most of us. So that's the purpose of doing it now. And then when this comes up next August, and you have your Facilities Corporation meeting at that time, then these minutes will already have been approved. And so it's not trying to recollect what's taken place.
thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to the consent calendar. Item number 6, approve the granting of diplomas to the students listed from alternative, community, and correctional education schools and
Can I
services.
just make a motion to accept the consent calendar as it is?
You can?
I make a motion to do that, to accept the items 6 through 9 in the consent calendar.
I will second, but I would like to ask a question if I could. You know, on item 7, the Teacher of the Year program, I realize Dr. Maharis will make these presentations. Would it be possible, I would love to participate, particularly if it was someone from the 4th District, or how does that work?
The board's invited every year to Teacher of the Year program.
Okay.
So the invitations typically, Drew sends those out, and then based on the responses from the board, then we certainly encourage you all to attend if you can make the meeting. And then.
Do we
in
know
terms of-
already when it will be? Or-
Yes, we do.
I didn't see it in the pack.
It wouldn't be in there yet, but
Okay.
I can get you the date. Thank you. Friday, October 28th.
Do we know who the teacher is?
No, it's actually it's a countywide Teacher of the Year program. So every district has submitted, and so we'll be recognizing teachers from all districts and charter school at, is it going to be at Disneyland Hotel again? Okay, at the Disneyland Hotel. Thank you, Christine.
As Nina said, we celebrate all 28 districts. They all nominate teachers from local. They have their own local nomination process, and then they send them into the county nomination process. And so all nominees are recognized, whether they are our finalists or not. And so 28 districts, our charter schools as well are included. And it'll start, I think we have a pre-reception at 5 o'clock for those who are our finalists. And then the evening starts around 6 with a dinner and stuff.
There's 6 finalists and 60 teachers being recognized. 60 teachers being recognized.
I have a question just about the process. So the nomination process, I can probably figure out. How do you get to be a finalist?
So there's a interview panel. So all the nominees get sent to us, and then there's an interview panel, and they go through an interview process. And then through that interview process, the finalists are determined. And then through that process, those names are sent to the state, and then the state has a finalist for the state Teacher of the Year. So we'll have an Orange County Teacher of the Year, and then a state Teacher of the Year, and then the state Teachers of the Year move on to National Teacher of the Year. And the interview panel is comprised of former Teachers of the Year, as well as some of our staff. Good.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion on any of the items on the consent calendar? I know we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, so call the vote.
Okay, so call to the vote.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we adopt 6 through 9, 5-0. That, now we'll move to charter submissions, item number 10. Nina, do we have any charter submissions?
We do not.
Okay. Okay. And now we're on item number 11, which we can find the update in our red folder, to approve the consulting and lobbying agreement with the Sheehy Strategy Group effective September 7 through June 30, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Or any discussion?
Let's discuss.
Any discussion? Yeah. Oh, Greg, there you are. Discuss.
Thank you for the opportunity to bring this before you, Madam President. The Sheehy Strategies Group is here with us this evening. And I just wanted to share with the board and the public what the executive committee's been made aware of about our interview process. When it became apparent that AB 286 was a train that was going down the track for quite some time, it became mission critical. So I interviewed several of the top lobbyists in the state of California. I called Mr. Sheehy's office. He answered the phone, which is an important first step in an interview. I told him the situation, and much unlike some of the other lobbyists with whom I spoke, he said, "Give me 2 hours." He gave me, just over 2 hours, to be fair, called back, and he had a very targeted and specific plan. But there was a matter of approving him and implementing his contract, and they said, "Don't worry about it. We're going to go to work right now." So we brought the contract before the board. The contract was approved, and several months later, we got a Herculean victory on SB 286. And Mr. Sheehy and his lovely wife, Brina, are to be thanked for that. And some of the efforts that our board members made to gather support is also critical. So we had a meeting at the direction of the president. I went to Sacramento, met with the Sheehy Strategies Group, and devised some other endeavors for the board to follow. He made it clear that there are a number of other public entities. He actually sent me 38 in Orange County that employ lobbyists for just this purpose. And I wanted to come explain the interview process and offer my personal thanks to them for the work they did and the work that hopefully they're to do in the future. So with that, if we want to take a victory lap with Mr. and Mrs. Sheehy, I'm happy to.
Let's take a victory lap.
Right.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Come on down.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity just to say a couple words. It's an honor to work for you.
Excuse me, could the microphone right there? Thank you.
My voice is so loud, I just figured we'd get by without it.
We're recording.
Of course. So it's an honor to work for this board, and we're so glad that Ray called, and I'm really glad I answered the phone. I've got to tell you, I don't normally pick up phones if I don't recognize the number, but there literally was a little voice in my head said, "Pick it up." So I did, and it was Greg, and you heard the rest of the story. As soon as we did go to work right away, that's true, but we couldn't actually go into the Capitol and have any formal communication with elected officials or their staff until we got a signed contract. We got that contract from you all at about, I think, 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 1:15, Brina and I were working the halls, not at the state capitol, but what we now call the swing space, which is across the street because they're doing a renovation. And we just never stopped working it. I don't remember whether it was Mary or Dr. Sparks, but one of you asked, what are our odds of being successful in getting the amendments or perhaps stopping what was an ill-conceived idea? And I think I said 1 in 3 or 1 in 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Brina and I expected that we'd be working on a veto strategy right now with Governor Newsom. But we were delighted when the bill failed to pass out of the Assembly Appropriations Committee. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. I know there's a lot of important issues that are being discussed in Sacramento that you may want to weigh in on, and we're honored to help your voice be heard. And Brina, do you want to say a few words?
No, I just echo what Tom said. It really is an honor to represent you in Sacramento, and we hope to have many more years of future representation.
And we are 2/3 of the Sheehy Strategy Group.
Yeah.
There's actually, there's 3 of us, but our procurement partner was not able to make it down for this meeting.
Well, we are so honored and grateful to have you represent us. And, we couldn't have navigated that territory without your savvy navigation. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
And I apologize, Madam President, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the work that you all did in contacting different individuals here from Orange County and asking them to write letters that would be helpful in the campaign. and then also in sharing those letters with us, which we used as props in our discussion. And so thank you, because it was a team effort.
Well, we're learning a lot about this process, and we really appreciate your direction and Mr. Rowland's guidance to connect us. So it's just everything came together. So 286 was 286, and we're very grateful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, I
Yes.
have questions.
Yes, sir.
You're not dismissed, sir.
Okay.
For the record, tell us why SB 286 was a bad bill and why it was shelved.
Yeah, it was a bad bill. For your constituents here that don't know the details of it, that bill was essentially introduced in January of this year. It was actually introduced last year, but it was a different subject matter. But it was gutted and amended in January of this year. And when it was amended, what that bill did is it usurped local control here in Orange County over the election process. Orange County in California is a charter county, and Orange County has the authority under current law to determine how they want their local elections to be held, which includes the County Board of Education. And if you were to ask the Orange County Board of Supervisors, if this body asked the Orange County Board of Supervisors to pass such a resolution, you could accomplish that. It was completely unnecessary for a state statute to be enacted in order to achieve a change in Orange County's election process. So one of the reasons why that bill, in our judgment, and one of the things that we emphasized in our discussions with legislators and their staff, was that this was a local control issue, that the Board of Education hadn't asked for it, the Board of Supervisors hadn't passed such a resolution, and as such, this legislation was unnecessary and it was unwelcome. And I used just those words when I testified in the Assembly Education Committee. And I suggested then to Senator Min, who carried the measure, because I talked with him afterwards, I said, why don't you sit down and try to work this out, because this is unwelcome action on your part. Now, that alone was enough, in my judgment, to ask for a no vote on this bill. But there was another matter that folks were trying to sort of paper over, and it was this sounds self-serving, it's not meant to be, but it was your good fortune to hire us, because as part of the team, I used to be the Chief Deputy Director of Finance for the state of California. I spent 7 years working at the California Department of Finance. I'm a bit of a budget nerd. And one of the things that was in that bill that nobody was paying attention to, or not much attention to, was the local mandate. The California Constitution says that if the state of California passes a law or a regulation, or even an executive order by the governor, that requires a local government entity, which could be the county, a city, a special district, school districts would be included, to do something different than they currently do, okay? That then becomes potentially a reimbursable mandate by the state general fund. I say potentially because when that happens, there's a process involved. A claim has to be filed through the Commission on State Mandates. And when I worked for Governor Schwarzenegger, I chaired that commission, so I knew the inner workings of it. And so when I looked at that bill and Mr. Rowland needed a plan on how we might stop it, I told him, I said, well, if we don't stop it on the policy, we're going to stop it on the fiscal. Because had SB 286 been enacted into law, Orange County, in fact, would have filed a test claim with the Commission on State Mandates, and it would have been approved because it would have been an open and shut case. And then every single election going forward in perpetuity would have become a general fund liability, which means that the constituents of every elected official in this state outside of Orange County would be paying for your elections. And once I pointed that out to the elected officials, they said, well, I don't want my constituents paying for this. I said, vote no. And when I talked with the Department of Finance, they got, they were notably concerned. So we don't know what would have happened with Governor Newsom because the bill didn't make it to his desk. But our plan was to try to stop at the legislature because we think it was ill-conceived. And if we couldn't stop it there, we were going to ask for a veto. And we were hoping that Governor Newsom and his Department of Finance would agree with us. We don't know that, but so that's the reason, Dr. Williams.
And while we're discussing, if I may, Dr. Williams.
Sure.
You mentioned the gut and amend, and we're kind of policy nerds in a way, not quite as much as you all in terms of knowledge, but the general population may not know really what that means. Could you explain what that means?
Sure. A gut and amend is, let's say this was a bill, actual bill going to the legislature. A gut and amend means what we would do is we would first strike out every word on this page, strike every word out. And then down below it on a second page, which you have to imagine is there, we would write a new bill and we would submit those amendments. So that when those amendments went over the Senate desk or went over the Assembly desk and the bill came back in print in its amended form, it would that bill would no longer say what was here, it would say what was in the new language we put in. So in the case of SB 286, it was an elections-related bill, but it was not about the Orange County Board of Education. It wasn't about Orange County at all. It was something it was germane, because it was dealing with elections. But it was in January, so the way the legislative process works, it's a 2-year process. And 2021 was the first year that bill got introduced, and it didn't go anywhere. So when we got to January of 2022, the rules of the legislative process say that any bills that didn't make it out of the House of Origin in the first year, which was 2021, has a 30-day window in the beginning of the next year, 2022, to get out. So Senator Min amended his bill into the language you're familiar with, SB 286, concerning the elections of this body in January, and it passed off the Senate floor with 31 Democrats voting for it, 5 or 6 Republicans voting no, and a couple of Republicans abstaining. But it got unanimous support from the Democrat caucus. And when it went to the Assembly, the bill got put on a shelf for several months. And it didn't really get referred out and heard in committee, I think, until April, about 4 months later. There was no action at all. And I don't know when exactly it got on your all radar screen, but I think you called, I think I got the call from Greg. It was in late June. It was just 1 week before its very last policy hearing in the Assembly, which was because when it finally got referred out of committee, it was referred to the Elections Committee in the Assembly, and then if it passed through there, it was going to go to the Education Committee in the Assembly. And once we got a signed contract from you, we were actually able to represent you publicly. Then we testified at the Education Committee in the Assembly. And then the rest is history.
So the numbers stayed the same, but all the language changed. And
Yeah, the bill number stayed the same.
Yeah.
That's right, but all of the language changed.
Yeah,
And the bill really didn't get many amendments. So when it passed from there, it was referred to the Committee on Appropriations because there was a fiscal impact because of the mandated program. And the Senate Appropriations Committee analyzed the bill and said they thought it was going to have annual costs of about $386,000. I don't know if they really meant annual, or if they meant biannual, but I think the $386,000 number was probably low. There's a cottage industry that exists in the state of California. I learned this from when I chaired the commission. And once a bill like SB 286 passes in any county, once a bill that has a mandate to pass it, the consultants start dialing for dollars. And they'll get a hold of the county and they'll say, this regulation is passed or this law is passed, and we think it's a mandate, and you need to file a claim. And they're very, 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 very good at upping the value of those claims. And I saw this cottage industry in action. In fact, I remember when I shared that with the Assembly Appropriations consultant, she started turning red. She said, "That's just not right." I said, "Well, that's how it works. That's the game, And so I think the number is probably low. It probably would have been a multiple of that had the bill actually gone forward and been enacted. And then, as I say, that was not a one-time payment. That would have been a payment at a minimum every single election cycle going forward for perpetuity. So those are the reasons why it was a bad idea. This is an issue that can be worked out locally here. It doesn't require San Diego County to pay for your election costs, or Los Angeles County to pay for it, or Marin County, or any other county. You guys, the people that live in this county, should pay for your election costs. And it should be under your control because you have the authority under current law to make those determinations, so there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Your county was deemed to be somewhat unique because there are 4 other counties in the state of California that also have their elections in the month of June.
Right.
So our question was, why?
Yeah, that was our question. Do you have anything else, Dr. Williams?
Of course, I do.
Okay, yeah.
So from a policy perspective, the local control issue, How unusual is it that a single county would be called out in the education code? I ask that question because when I talk to some of my colleagues at other county boards of education, especially the president of the state county board association, he thought this was purely partisan, it was not necessary, it was ill-conceived. You added a lot more to that, but how common do we get, this looked like it was targeted politically against us.
Well, that's a really good question. Let me tell you what I know and what I don't know. I don't have any facts that say that it was a political action against you. That may be true. That's not what Senator Mintz testified to. It's not what his author's statement said in any of the committees in which his bill was heard. So while it's possible it could have been purely political, I can't confirm that because he didn't say that to me, and I never heard him say that publicly. So that's a matter of speculation. It certainly would appear that way, but we just don't know. On the other question you asked, which is how common is it for there to be a matter in the education code that just targets one county? I'd like to broaden that to say not just the education code, and ask the question, rephrase the question, how commonly does it happen where one county is singled out in a piece of legislation? Now that does happen from time to time. It's usually a non-controversial issue. These are referred to as district bills by the member that carries them. It's usually something that the whole body would vote in support of, with all of the members of the Assembly and all the members of the Senate. It's less common, considerably less common, to have a controversial measure be authored by a representative from just one county and run it through. It does happen. I've seen it before, not necessarily in the education code. I'm not saying it hasn't happened in the education code, but I don't want, I'd want to do some more research before I said something on the record about that. But it does happen, and it does happen where it's not controversial. That's more common. But something as controversial as this was, because I read the press clippings on this, and it was the Orange County Register thought it was controversial, so it must have been controversial. It's not that common.
And just for the record, the Orange County Register did suggest to Senator Min that he run for the County Board of Education if he wants to change any state law.
Well, see, there you go.
And also for the record, let me put it on right now, there was never a conversation between the Executive Committee with Senator Min. We did have a conversation earlier, which was interesting in and of itself, but there was no conversation ever about this issue with Senator Min, so that he never reached out to the other side of the aisle.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I did speak with Senator Min about this. He was very friendly with me, and I told him I'd be seeing more of him.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other questions or discussion? Thank
No,
you for your
thank you for your
thorough work. We really appreciate you explaining everything, and we appreciate your hard work and tenacity on this issue and future issues.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure, and thank you for coming down. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second, and now, barring any more discussion, we will go ahead and put it to a vote to approve the consulting and lobbying agreement with the Sheehy Strategy Group effective September 7, 2022 through June 30, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It passes 5-0. Welcome again. All right, and that moves us on to item number 12, the approval of the Charter Schools Forum that we have scheduled for September 20, 2022. Do we have any discussion?
You want to lead?
Sure. I'll lead. Ken and I have kind of been working as the co-chairs to put together this community forum on charter schools, and the purpose is to educate the community, to parents, even maybe districts about charter schools. There's so many unknowns to the public of, is it a charter school? They don't even know it's a public school. Is it a free school? How do they take their applicants? So we really want to talk about some minor issues as well as some important issues with charter schools. We have an excellent cast of experts that are going to join us on that evening. We have Lance Azumi, who is one of the premier education experts in the state of California, works for Pacific Research Institute, and is a dear friend. We also have another dear friend, Kevin Kiley, who is an expert in education. Even after they threw him off the education committee, he still continued to help us, so we appreciate that. He and I and Lance all spoke on a panel this weekend in San Diego. And then we also have, let's see, we have Gloria Romero, another founder and charter school expert. Who am I missing? Oh, Walter Myers.
Walter
We have
Myers.
Walter Myers, who some of you got to see during our critical race theory forum. So he'll be back and is just wonderful. And then we have, let me just look at his name, Soto. Sorry.
Richard Soto from
Richard Soto we have from CCSA, and I've been on calls with him. He's outstanding. So we have a great group of experts that is going to be here with us on the 20th. We have Mr. Scott Baugh, who will be moderating that forum, so we're very excited about that. It is going to go from 6 to 9:30 p.m., and about 5 o'clock we're going to have a press conference. So we're really excited.
And it'll be held here, correct?
It'll be held here. We'll have some social media, some information going out today as a save the date, so everybody will know about that information. Ken, do you want to talk about the specific? There was a nice little bullets that you put together, what we want to accomplish. Do you want to maybe read that?
Sure. So let me just kind of set another direction here for us. Officially, what happened was the one individual from CCSA was unable to make that date. She said that she had another conflict. So that's how we got Lance onto it. So really, in your red folder is the updated expert panel that has been selected, and a little bio. And as is previous in our forums, we will have a moderator, and all the board will have the ability to ask questions, and it should last and be over about 9:30. We do have public comments. That will be about 30 minutes. But it should be an interaction and a dialogue with our experts on how to strengthen California's charter schools at both a local and a state level. And we will have a white paper that will be created from this that we will eventually publish and put it on our website.
Now, I'm sorry, the forum starts at 6, but what time did you say we were doing, like,
Press conference between 4:30 and 5. Is that?
Okay, I just want to have it in my calendar.
Trustee Barkey, just a quick question. What kind of advertising are we putting out there for this?
Well, we just today, now that we're going to have this approved, we're going to put out, and I have this wonderful little graphic that a friend of the board helped put together. So
I mean, I just think,
Yeah.
people need to hear about
yeah,
it.
no, for sure. So this is super bright. I think it'll draw a lot of attention, and we'll get it on all the various social medias. We'll get it on our website, and ask anybody to share it, certainly with their networks, and hope that there's a ripple effect and lots of people show up.
Well, we really appreciate you guys putting the effort in. I know what it takes to put on a conference. It takes a lot of work. And so we really appreciate you putting all the effort into getting these great speakers. And I think it will be a wonderful information session on charter schools and any misconceptions around charter schools. A lot of the public aren't aware of public charter schools and the role that they can serve. Yeah.
If I can just state a few other issues. So on pages 96 and 97 is the sample letter that we sent out to our experts. On page 97 is the actual purpose and the goals of this public community forum. And then the actual format is on page 98. That gives a breakdown. And we've always been very amicable and not so tight on the timeline, and that will be up to Mr. Baugh. On page 99 is a guest list. If you do have anybody that you want to have invited and have saved seats, Nina Daru will handle that, just like they have in the past. And that's
Also, sorry to cut in, but George, as far as getting it out, I also will be reaching out to the Register, to the Times, to EPOC, and to Voice of OC. So now that I have this graphic, I will send that out to all four, and so that they'll hopefully help us promote
And
it.
maybe the LA Times as well, because
I did. I added, yes.
Oh, okay.
OC Register, LA
Oh, okay, good.
Times, Voice of OC and Epoch Times. If anybody else has other contacts and they want me to reach out, or you want to reach out yourselves, feel free.
Yeah, this has been something we've been working on for quite some time. We sort of take turns on what we do. Mary's sort of the media expert, and I'm just more
Expert.
Well,
I'm the
you
media
are.
liaison.
And I
maybe.
know in the past, Nina, you all have asked questions about facilities and arrangements. Have you guys worked that all out, or do we need to discuss that?
I was waiting to get
Oh.
to that.
Well, there you go.
That's Ken's expertise.
Do you want to do it privately, or do you want something given by the board to you now?
Well, just in terms of, I mean, certainly because it's YouTube and so forth, some people will watch it online. We'll naturally have all of the rooms and so forth. But if there's an expectation that there's overflow, you know, we've had different forms where we've bought tents and set up outside and so forth. And then there's others where we've just set up sound on the, you know, and tried to utilize. For safety concerns, we have some concerns with using behind the gate. But just, I don't know if you all have thought about that in terms of expected numbers, if you think that the board and the side rooms will be adequate.
Is there a possibility to have a registration link where people can click so that we can have, you know, people register that they're planning on coming?
I mean, we could put that in the
It's
graphic.
a public
There's-
meeting.
Yeah.
So from the standpoint, you could certainly do a registration link, but you couldn't limit it
Right,
from that
okay.
standpoint because it is, you're a board and.
Right. It just might give us an idea of the numbers.
What is
but-
the capacity that we can do in?
About 200?
Yeah.
About 200.
I don't expect
I think this time
200.
of year, there's so many other things going on with, you know, the elections coming up in, you know, what is it, 60 days almost? So I think we'll be fine with 200.
I think
but-
200 is a good
Yeah.
number.
And you know what? If we have so many people, we'll have to do another one.
There you go.
Those were the questions that we had, just
Okay.
in terms of ensuring we could take care of the needs of the board. So.
Okay.
And you could just call me if there's anything that comes up. And Mary and I are pretty much talking now on a daily basis about this.
Okay, so if there's no more discussion around that, I guess we are waiting for a motion.
I'll make a motion to
Yeah,
approve
just
the.
for clarity,
Yep.
can you motion, because you had a previous speaker, you want to make sure that your motion is
With the updated speakers?
With the updated
Yes,
speaker,
I'll
so.
make a motion with the updated speakers, which includes Lance Azumi replacing Myrna Costa.
correct.
Thank you.
And do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 5-0, that passes. The approval of the Charter Schools Forum for September 20th, 2022. And we'll have press around 4:30 to 5, and the actual event kicks off at 6 o'clock, expected to go until 9:30 p.m.
Now, will all the board be participating in the press conference?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
We
so
are all
then-
welcome to, yes.
Then that would make it public. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. We can't close that because.
Sure, of course,
That's fine.
of course.
We were going to do it here probably again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the more the merrier, sure.
Perfect. So we'll
Yeah.
have the boardroom set up in advance so that by 4:30, when you all are expecting press and so forth, and then you can just roll into your.
I would expect the board members as well as our forum experts, those that can be here in time, to all participate.
Yeah, and then we'll have all the tables set up
Like we
did
have in the
before.
past
Yeah.
with microphones and so forth.
Okay, wonderful. So we will move on to item number 13, staff recommendations.
I'll make that motion for item number 13 for GAN limits.
Okay,
I will second.
any discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. The adopting the resolution number 19 to 22, identifying the GAN actual appropriations limit for 2021 to 22 and the GAN estimated appropriations limit for 2022-2023. And that brings us to information items, the first one being communication information discussion. And so I'll call Renee up to talk about the Rancho Senado update.
Thank you. So just as we have a new board member, I'll just kind of go back a little bit. A couple years ago, we did have a major fire at our Inside the Outdoors program, which is in Rancho Senado. It was called Rancho Senado. And it destroyed, it's on Silverado Canyon area off Chapman, right? The fire destroyed 2 out of 3 buildings and basically decimated the site. So since that time, we've been continually cleaning up each time it rains, which I guess it's fortunate we haven't had enough rain. I'm not sure that's fortunate or not fortunate, but every time we have had rain because of the runoff areas, and I know Dr. Williams lives close to that area, so he's been able to help us with some of that. He'll tell us, yeah, it did rain really hard that day. So we continue to do that cleanup. We have done an RFP for architect services, which will be our first step in moving forward. We have met with a couple different groups already on what are some of the community areas on what would they like to see in that project. That was some of the discussion with the board also. So that has helped us kind of define the project a little bit, but once we've selected the architect, we'll be coming back to the board to see what would your involvement and your input to the design process. And so I think we had discussed at one of our prior meetings that due to the continued fire danger in that area, we are going to house the animals at Esplanade right here. Excuse me, instead of they were in trailers up there, and it's hard to build something that is fireproof, and that is a very high fire area. This is not as big of a high fire area, and we're remodeling the building right now. Excuse me, and so they will be housed here. We actually haven't purchased all the animals yet, so we don't have them. I'm sure at one point, if we get to large animals again, we'll have to think of something different. So, but that's kind of the process we're in. We're hoping we have those architect finals within the next month and then be coming back to you for your input. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Discussion? No? Okay. Oh, I was wondering, where's Tim going? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And for George, the Inside the Outdoor program is probably one of my favorite programs here. When I first came on the board in '96, it was amazing the impact that this program had in the local communities, even outside of Orange County, because a lot of school districts from LA, San Diego, the Inland Empires, they came to our program, and it was amazing interaction with animals. And if you get the opportunity, love to go out there with you, I'll show you around, you be next to my home. And
I definitely will.
yeah. It's an amazing facility. Unfortunately, it's all burned down, but what we're doing here, working with communities, we're hoping to gain this momentum where this is not just Orange County the department, but it's a community effort. And so I want to thank Renee for doing something that's very, very near and dear to the hearts of the board here.
Thank you for that very important work. And yeah, and I actually would like to see it at some point too,
Yeah.
like in its current state. Okay, announcements from the superintendent or the deputy superintendent in place of the superintendent.
And Dr. Maharis is unable to be here. He had a commitment outside of the area, so we miss him, but he did send his regards to the board. I'm going to ask Dean, who is our Associate Superintendent, Business Services, to give you some updates, and the information he's going to be referencing is primarily related to new funding, and there is a attachment in your red folder.
Okay, so you have the attachment, and I'll put some on the back table. We'll get that for anybody that wants it on the back table at the end. This funding here, I thought it'd be great that I had staff put together 3 different funding sources that we received here in 22-23, or will be receiving. The schedule has 3 columns of data, 1/4, which is a total. But they represent 3 of the significant funding sources that the state is using their money for this year. One of those is ongoing, Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. It's to extend that 9-hour day and wraparound services. That money is ongoing there, and we already received, districts received that, charter schools received that this year as a planning process, and but they will be receiving it again on an ongoing basis. Now, the other 2 elements was the decisions of deciding what to do with one-time dollars, trying to fiscally make sure that they're not overextending themselves as they went into the next fiscal year. And so those, there are 2 grants there. One of them are Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. The other one's the Learning Recovery and Emergency Block Grant. Like most of the dollars that have come out of the state, they're always determining whether this is going to go out on a per pupil basis or on an equity basis like a UPP, unduplicated pupil percentage, those that are low income, foster youth, or English language learners. And so that's kind of the funding distribution. You kind of see how that's done. One side is school districts, and I think county office is the bottom. County office only sees about $2 million of these dollars, but this is about $1 billion represented on the two sides of this paper. So most of the money that we received in the last few years was, a lot of it was federal dollars, federal aid, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3 dollars. That is in excess of $1 billion in the county, and then we had some state resources as well. But these are the new dollars represented in the 22-23, and we thought we'd be good representation so you can kind of see kind of what's out there in the county and charter schools and districts.
I have a couple questions related to some of the numbers here. If you look at like the learning recovery block, which is obviously very, very important given the last couple of years, how did you determine, or how did whoever determined, for example, Santa Ana Unified getting 75 million there, and comparing Newport Mesa getting 17 million in that category? Is it by student numbers, or what?
I was
how is
about
it
to
determined?
ask the exact same question
Yeah.
with respect to Santa Ana versus Tustin Unified.
Right, right.
Sure. So it's a legislative process. So this goes through the legislature. It's a funding bill, and that's the budget that works out with the governor. So the two houses, and then the governor working out that funding. So the bill is prepared, and it's decided what the funding methodology is going to be. And usually they're looking at to say, okay, is this, what's the nature of this? Is this arts, music, instructional materials, discretionary dollars that we really want to do? Is it going to go out to every pupil? Or is it really in the learning recovery grant area? Was it really think that there was more differentiation? Some students suffered more, or maybe had more needs in
Wait,
recovery.
was there data? Was that based on data or socioeconomic status level, or?
Yeah, I don't know that
Yeah.
this specific funding was
Test
tied
scores?
to a specific result, but that's more in past studies related to an average household student not losing as much recovery, not losing as much on the national standard when those resources aren't there versus those that when those resources aren't there. So there is, usually you hear from Renee related to the county office's funding, and there's obviously lots of funding that's coming out there related to either the county office or school districts per se. That is ADA protection and universal meals, transportation. A lot of we didn't really schedule that out for you right here. This is really represents about $15.5 billion the
Right.
state's spending right now, and we do this scheduling all the time for our agencies to make sure that they know. And this estimate actually is done by School Services of California, reputable firm that kind of is early in the numbers out there. So we don't have these from CDE yet. We don't have a lot of that numbers yet in allocations. The dollars probably won't come till, well, it's September, so they're going to start to flow right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious what the criteria were for those decisions.
It looks like my district did extraordinarily well.
So you'll notice like the urban areas, Anaheim Elementary, Anaheim Union High, Santa Ana, Garden Grove,
Well, I'm
those
looking at-
areas will have
I'm
a
looking
lot
at Anaheim,
more.
Garden Grove, Santa
Yeah.
Ana,
Yeah.
Tustin.
Those have a lot in the learning recovery block grant because it was based on that equity UPPV format. So.
And they also use the unduplicated count related to socioeconomics. And so you will see based on the areas that you're describing that's where typically the lower socioeconomics are. So the numbers are going to be higher.
Right, okay.
And this is only for information purposes.
No, I understand.
action.
I understand. I just wanted the general picture so the public would have an understanding of what the general criteria were for those numbers. Okay, any other discussion or questions?
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to call up Renee to give you some facility updates.
Okay. She's getting her steps in.
Yes.
Before I forget, though, I just want to mention one thing about Inside the Outdoors. Dr. Williams, I thought would remind me, but that land was donated to us by a trust. And so that is used specifically for educational purposes and public use, so.
And how large is that site?
100 plus acres.
I'm sorry,
acres.
huh? You, no,
Well,
thank you.
it's
100
acres,
acres,
but I was
yes.
just giving,
Yes, I'm sorry, I did
I
forget
just
that
wanted you
piece.
to know the magnitude
Right.
of it.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
pretty
100
large.
acres.
Actually, Dr. Williams knew that, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, major projects here. I know the executive committee is aware of a couple of these, but following our October board meeting, this room will actually go into some refresh of video equipment once again. And so remember we did this a couple years ago. Hopefully none of you were aware, but I think it was 2 meetings ago, we almost couldn't get our YouTube feed out. And we were panicking a little bit. It was a little stressful. So what we're finding out is components that were purchased at different times are not working together. And so we need to do a refresh to get the equipment up. It's going to cause some small remodeling of the media booth. If you look in there, it looks like a huge snake group of wires. And so we're just going to simplify that, put some updated technology. So hopefully everything works a little bit better. So the timing for that is we should be up by the November meeting. If not, they have a backup plan. We did order the equipment quite a while ago, so everything is here. That was our big issue. So we will hope we will be on time with that one.
Are we doing that with the department staff or an outside vendor?
No, we used an outside vendor. So it was bid. So I think I don't even know the name of the company now at this point. The construction for the booth was very small, and that will actually be done by our staff, because really just refitting that's very small. You've noticed we had a lot of paving, so we actually repaved, restriped this site, Red Hill, Esplanade, and Harbor Learning Center, our first site, and a lot of that was also to do some ADA compliance that we were, through the years, had changed. All of the buildings are also being painted, and so this campus, Esplanade, Red Hill, Harbor Learning Center, and Hillview School. And then we're also working on roof replacement. So you're going to see just a lot of construction. So most of this we've talked about throughout last year. It's been on the planning for quite a while, but we're trying to capture the last of our, I would say good weather, but I don't think the staff that have been working or our vendors the last couple of weeks have been too excited by us. But that is the major projects we have going on right now.
And wonderful. Renee, the turnstile?
Yes. Thank you. As part of the project is the turnstile is actually not ADA compliant, and so that will
this out here.
Yes, and so that will be removed, and a gate will be put in there.
Oh, okay.
And so, and I don't know if you remember that when we did the front doors, and also we had to enlarge the door for this exit out, and so all of these we've gone through architect drawings and approvals by the city. The other thing would be the awning coverage will be redone also. So just to make sure we're all in compliance.
Renee, could I make a facilities request perhaps for a more sensitive microphone here? And I've noticed that for the taller speakers at the podium, it just seems to me like we need a longer microphone for the taller people speaking at the podium, so they don't have to bend over and hunch over.
Yeah, I think
It was made for us hobbits, you know that.
I think, well, I'm fairly tall. I kind of do okay, but yes, they will look at some of those different things. Like this one's a little bit higher, but we don't use it as often. We do try to space people out from the board a little bit. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder, you all have already talked about your forum on September 20th, so we'll be preparing the agenda utilizing what was approved. We'll also get items posted to the website so that that information is available to the public and it reflects everything that you approved this evening. And then that's considered a special meeting. So the next regular meeting will be October 5th here in the boardroom. Submission deadline for the regular meeting will be the day after your forum. So September 21st would be the last day for items. Want to call that to your attention.
Looking at us, Tim.
I know.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any legislative updates from anyone? CSBA, CCBE, NSBA, Capital News, or School Services?
I think we got the best legislative update ever
I think
from
so
the
too.
Sheehy Group.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Do you have any additional? No?
No?
Okay, good. Oh, yes.
I would probably know this.
Excuse me.
Can you
need
come up to the?
mic.
You get your steps in today too.
Well, the board and staff here probably already know this, but the legislative session has ended, but there are about 500 bills that have been sent to Governor Newsom. Not all of those are ready to present to the governor yet because they go through a process called embossing and engraving, which is a fancy way of just saying they're making sure there's no typos in the final language of the bill jacket. And the governor has until midnight on September 30th to either sign bills, veto them, or let them become law without his signature. It's very rare for a governor to let a bill to become law without their signature, but it happens on occasion. There's no telling when he'll sign different bills. Some of us thought he was gonna, there were some pretty big bills, there were big policy bills, big bills politically, and he signed them right away instead of waiting till the end. So I don't know which particular measures you might still be interested in, but I think that the governor will keep us guessing right up to the end of this month. So,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Tom, do you have a list of these bills? Maybe you can get to all of the board members so we can look at it?
Of all the bills that are enrolled, I can
Uh,
produce such a list.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'd be good to
Yeah,
to look at.
absolutely, when I get back to my office.
Okay.
Yeah. And certainly the ones that, that would
T-
apply
Tom,
to us.
I would only be interested in the ones that you think are relevant for us, not the whole list.
Of course, relevant.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Whatever's easiest for you, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
That would be
All
great.
right, very good. Anything else?
No, thank you. That's wonderful, having our real legislative updates. I love it. Moving on to committee, oh, do you have something? No. No, you're just exercising in between? Okay, got it. So that moves us to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports?
Yes,
Dr.
Tim and
Williams?
I have a report
Yeah.
for the website, social media committee. Now that Tim's back on the board and we're up and going and we can talk now, we were on a little hiatus there during the few months that the good judge said, no, you're not going to be here, Mr. Shaw. But we're up and going, and you'll see on the next agenda, I failed to meet the deadline for this actual authorization of social media accounts by this board. Tim and I have been, and Tim, please step in and say what is necessary. We've been talking about just making this a small event, maybe just starting like on Twitter and making that account and making postings and working with Mr. Rowland, make sure everything's legalized and looking good. And then we thought we'd have a board policy that would be more specific for each one of us if we want to put something on. Actually, obviously the website committee and social media committee, Tim and I would be putting them on initially, but we want the opportunity for all the board members to put something on. So we'll make and create some type of board policy that allows that to give us more direction. So, Tim, anything else?
Sure. Well, I mean, we had the committee when we were talking about the website, and I guess we can. I mean, that was the impetus. I understood if we want to kind of continue, I'm happy to do that with Ken and kind of morph into more of our social media presence if that was according to the pleasure of the full board, or I don't know if that was I'm not sure that was the exact intent, but working on the content, I've been interested to read a lot of stories lately in the news about the impact of the school closures during COVID, and I think we're getting more data on how that impacted students' learning and stuff. So we're kind of there's a lot of interesting content, I think, related to education to be shared. Now, what that looks like amongst us and our accounts, I'm happy to take input, but and happy to work on it, according to the pleasure of our president and our board.
Yeah, and since I've served on the social media committee, I'm happy to participate in that process as well, in whatever way is deemed appropriate and best for getting our information out there. So that would be great. Appreciate that. Any other comments?
All right, board, well, that was a committee report.
That's committee report. And now, and any other committee reports before we move on to board comments?
And also, are you going to have a report out from closed session?
We need to go back to closed session.
We didn't finish.
Because we didn't finish. Thank you. Any other committee reports? No? Okay. Moving on to board member comments. I'll start to my left.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Trustee Williams.
I'm gonna be the last.
Oh, you want to be last? Okay. Trustee Valdez.
I have a comment. So the night I was appointed last month, I did make the comment that I would start to put my ear to the ground and start walking some of the schools, and boy, did I get a response to that. I just wanted to share with you all that I did walk the Vista Meridian Global Academy on August 26th. I met with Dr. Colin Felch, who is just so impressive. I mean, really. We walked the entire school. I saw many of the classrooms, the gym facility. The school spends a lot of time teaching global cultures. The classrooms are labeled by country, and the kids learn about the various countries around the world. I had the opportunity to tour the Innovations Lab, which has a topographical sandbox run by a computer. I saw a green screen recording studio, music room, and professor or teacher Luis Hernandez really toured the room in great detail. And I really thought back to my high school experience, which had a bunch of IBM, computers with, the loose floppy disks back in the day in the 80s. And I'm like, wow, we have really come a long way since then. The school has 870 students. I did have a briefing with the entire staff, and overall it was a great experience. I know they're doing some remodeling in the back, and I have told Dr. Felch that I would assist in any way I can, with pushing forward with that remodeling process. So, in any way I can, I will help him. So I just wanted to share with everyone that I've toured my first school.
I actually had real typewriters in my high school. That dates me even more. Okay, any other board comments? Trustee Shaw?
Oh, I just want to once again welcome Trustee Valdez to the board, and I know what a great job he's doing already, and really taking it seriously and getting out there and working hard. So good job, George, and glad to have you.
Okay, so to begin with, I thought the board might be interested in an article from the good Joe Nalvin, who was here for our community forum on critical race theory. He wrote this for an organization called Minding the Campus, which is about exposing the intellectual conformity and the lack of free expression in the university postgraduate arena. So I thought that was a nice little overview here, if you go to look at it, to compare the two different approaches, the pedagogical approach to education, between the critical lens and a more liberal lens. So that is something I just wanted to share. Also, I just wanted to share that I will be creating, along with Trustee Valdez, we're creating a policy on education curriculum dealing with something akin to that, which is the teaching of critical theories and the need for more open expression and academic honesty, free moral agency. We're working on that, and again, we couldn't make the date for this meeting, but it'll probably be on the October meeting. And then also another a board policy that we're working on is something to do with parental rights. And so that may take a little bit longer. I'm getting reviews from people in many, many different corners of the political arena and public policy, governance decisions. So that's coming out probably November, around there. And lastly,
Tim, what was that labeled?
oh, parental rights
Parental
policy.
rights,
Yeah.
thank you.
So still working on that. And lastly, I have something very special to share. And if our social media, we want to show you a little something here. This is a video. And this is my 9-week-old son-to-be.
Oh, wow.
As you can see him there, he's moving about. You see his 10 toes and 10 fingers, and the head, so that's Kenneth Lloyd Williams III. So I just wanted to share that.
Wow. Congrats.
Very exciting. I didn't realize you were going to go on the big screen. Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing, the technology that we have. To look at a 9-week-old, my son, We went through IVF for the last 5 years, and so I have pictures of him when he was just a blastocyst stage. And then we put him into the uterus a couple months ago, and to watch him grow only talks about the sanctity of life and the uniqueness of our humanity. So I wanted to share that publicly with my good friends and to the public out there.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ken.
All right, well, I think that might be a great way to end the comments, the board member comments. And at this point, we need to go to closed session to finish. So we'll recess into closed session and then we'll recess back in, right? We are back from closed session, and we're going to have a report out from Jonathan Brenner.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Good to be with you this evening. This is the report out for the closed session tonight. As to closed session items 1 through 4, the board held a discussion and received an update from council. It took no action other than to approve the invoices of Epstein, Becker, and Green, specifically invoice numbers 109, 4608, 109, 4609, and 109, 4610, each invoice dated August 31, 2022. As to all three, the vote was to approve 5-0 unanimously by the whole board. And that's the report out for tonight's meeting, closed session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brenner. In wrapping up our meeting, I'd like to again welcome our newest board member, George Valdez. We're so excited to have you on board, and great job tonight. And I'd like to acknowledge our Sheriff Deputy Harris. Thank you for hanging around with us tonight and every time you come here. We really appreciate it, and the staff as well.
The staff,
With the media, and you're going to get your new media room pretty soon, so that's kind of exciting. But thank you for all the work you guys do. You know, we don't always remember to acknowledge you, but we do know you're hovering around and making sure everything works for us, so we really appreciate it. And thanks for organizing all of us and keeping us in line, as I try to do as well, to herd the cats. So with that, I will call the meeting.
Make a motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn. That's what I'll do.